Hello, everyone, and welcome back in for another week of Palmetto Playbook. I'm your host, Alan Marcus Hart, of the 5 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. producer here at WMBF News.
And I'm TJ Turner. I'm a digital content producer here at WMBF News in Myrtle Beach. And we're starting off this week with a loss for the Panthers as they faced off against the Seahawks this past week. And they lost 27-10 in that game, which I think we expected this game to go this way, but with how the Panthers season has gone so far this year, it's kind of a lot like that play where there's just so many crazy things that have happened. They beat the teams they're not supposed to beat. They lose to teams they're supposed to win to. So I think in this one we were kind of just expecting them to do the unexpected and win, but definitely the expected outcome overall with them losing to the Seahawks.
Yeah, it was a very good defensive performance, at least in the first half. The Panthers did everything they could defensively to keep themselves in the game, forcing turnovers from Sam Darnold and limiting the Seahawks' scoring opportunities in that first half. It was a very close game like you just see right there, it's 3-3 in the third quarter. That's you can't really complain too much about that. Panthers, just down the stretch of that game, Seahawks just showing that while they're the better team overall, it was a tough second half performance from the Panthers, but they still have another week to hopefully secure their spot in a playoff game.
Yeah, and you were talking about the defense there. I think the defense for the Panthers has definitely been the more steady component of that team thus far this season, with the offense just kind of coming in spurts where you have no idea what you're going to get. In this game, they were held to 139 total yards offensively, which should not put you in a football game, but the fact that they were in this game for most of it is pretty impressive and definitely a testament to how that defense has been playing.
Yeah, it's hard to win a game when you only have 139 total offensive yards. Well, yeah, even the Seahawks running back, he almost equaled the Panthers' entire total yards. Zach Carpenter, I'm not gonna pronounce his last name before I mess that up. Had 110 yards and 2 total touchdowns on the day. So, doing it all for the Seahawks.
Yeah, I believe it's Charbonnet. I think
that sounds about
think
right.
It's
But when I
Charbonnet.
try
I'm not sure.
when I tried to say it out my mouth, I don't think that was going to come out. So
I'm not sure if the T's silent or not there, but he definitely had a great game as he had all year. It's been kind of interesting watching that Seahawks offense, whether or not him or Kenneth Walker are the premier back. It seems like one week it's one of them, the next week it's the other. So it's been pretty interesting to see what that offense does. And the Panthers, as we'll talk about it later, have a huge matchup this week with some very big playoff implications.
yeah, they still have a very much still in the playoff hunt. With just how lackluster the NFC South is this year, they still have a way to get in, and we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, and then moving on, we have some bowl games this past weekend, which with the Pop-Tart Bowl, as you can see there in the end zones, you got the sprinkles going on. Love the Pop-Tart Bowl. I think it's definitely the most fun bowl right now outside of the college football playoff.
Yeah, their marketing for this game is insane. Like even just the stuff around the game, they inducted 2 Pop-Tarts into the Pop-Tart Hall of Fame. I think during the first quarter, I believe. I don't know if you saw that part or not. It was a really good game also as well. BYU, I think Georgia Tech had the lead for at least a lot of the second half, and BYU storming back in and getting the win. But yeah, it was a very fun game. Just not taking it too serious. No, I guess the bowl wise, that you definitely take the game seriously. You don't want to just go in there and have mess around with that. But the antics around the game are fun to watch.
Yeah, there we go. You got the Pop-Tarts there in the giant toaster.
And before that, we even had the Notre Dame representation with the strawberry mascot jumping off and opting out of the toasting.
Because I want to say Notre Dame was supposed to be in this game. Correct?
Yeah, they were supposed to be. They were supposed to have Georgia Tech's place, but Georgia Tech ended up taking that spot after Notre Dame opted out.
Yeah, and the BYU's coach there eating the giant Pop-Tart there after the game, and their freshman quarterback, Bear Bachmeier there, who you can see, I believe he won Pop-Tart Bowl MVP or player of the game, whatever the award is called there. He had 325 yards, a touchdown, and an interception in this game. And that Pop-Tart there for the coach is definitely a good reward, and this 12 wins for that new contract he just picked up recently as well.
Yeah, it caps off a great season for BYU. just falling short of the playoffs. Which, I mean, we've seen this in the past couple of years where teams that are on the fringe of getting into the playoffs, but ultimately didn't make that last spot, just kind of falter in bowl games. I can think of like Alabama last year and then South Carolina last year as well, where they ended up losing their bowl games. But BYU did a good job of keeping the momentum going and going out there and winning their bowl game.
Yeah, it's definitely good to see from those programs that definitely have all the right to be disappointed in the end of the season performance and where they ended up in the rankings at the end of the season. But to see them show that resiliency and come in and actually play their hardest for that final game, which we, as you said, we haven't seen in the last couple of years. Then moving over to the Independence Bowl, as Coastal Carolina went to Louisiana to play Louisiana Tech in Shreveport, and they were having some fun before with going to the military training facility there, getting a tour around there. Definitely looked like an interesting experience for those guys.
Yeah, I mean, interesting is definitely a one word to describe it. I don't know if I'm preparing for a football game. I'm expecting to do all of this, but I mean, I guess it's fun to enjoy your time before the football game.
Now, as you can see there, our quarterback, Samari Collier, who has been starting for a majority of the year, actually ended up getting tased in this game not in the game.
Not in the game. That'd be crazy.
Got tased in the pregame antics, as we'll show you guys here a quick video of that.
I'm so scared, bro. No, don't. You gotta say it. Don't say that.
I guess you could say that's a shocking return to the football program. I believe he started 4 or 5 games. I mean, there was some quarterback turnover before. He wasn't the starter to begin the season. It was kind of between MJ Morris and Tad Hudson, and then Collier stepped in and played really well. There was a 4-game stretch where he played really well, and then got hurt. I can't remember which game it was. It may have been Georgia Southern. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he got hurt, and he's been out for the rest of the season. There was some, I know when he first got hurt, they were trying to, I know there was word that he may be able to come back for the bowl game, but ultimately he wasn't able to play. Yeah, I think he was missed for the Coastal team down the stretch of the game, or the season.
Yeah, I think he was definitely the best quarterback that they had this season with Tad Hudson. Him having that opportunity with Tad Hudson going down earlier in the year with that injury to himself, and then Tad Hudson, and then Samari Collier, coming in and being able to rattle off a few wins in a row for the Chanticleers. But coming into this game, new quarterback change again for Tad Hudson coming in for Samari Collier, as he played last week, and then they weren't sure if Samari was going to be able to go this week, and then Tad Hudson getting the start. Was definitely an interesting game. The Coastal Carolina ended up losing 23-14. They went into the second half with a 14-3 lead, so it was definitely interesting rally back from Louisiana Tech in that second half.
Yeah, it was definitely a tale of two halves. Coastal played a near perfect game in the first half. Tad Hudson just looking electric out there, leading the offense on multiple good drives, and then just the second half happened, and I don't know what happened in the locker room during halftime or what, but an entirely new team just showed up in the second half, and I guess they looked like they didn't know what they were doing out there, for the basic fundamentals of football. They're a very sloppy game from both teams, but Louisiana Tech was able to make the necessary changes to fine-tune their game and get things going in the second half. I know this is a very disappointing game for a Coastal. I mean, I expected them to lose this game, but just the way they did it was kind of embarrassing and just disappointing. They played well in the first half, but to look like a shell of themselves in the second half was pretty bad. I feel like it's just the new era, the new Coach Ryan Beard era can't start soon enough for Coastal after a performance like that. And then even this coming week, they officially announced their new new coordinators, Nick Petrino leading the offense, and then L.D. Scott leading the defense, both coming, I think, from Missouri State, which is where Ryan Beard came from. So hopefully some exciting things in the future for Coastal football, but this was definitely a sour note to end the Tim Beck era, even though he wasn't the head coach. But, yeah, a rough way to go out.
Yeah, and I think a lot of Coastal fans and people us talking about it too here are definitely ready for this new era for Coastal Carolina football. We're kind of waiting for this game to be over, waiting for the season to be over so we could get these new guys in. I think it's going to be a new era in terms of players as well, as we have a lot of seniors going out. I'm not sure if Tad Hudson has another year of eligibility or not, but we have a lot of seniors on that offense that are going to be leaving, so it'll be interesting to see a coach like Ryan Beard come in and see what he can do with recruiting, and we'll see what he does in the portal. If he can get some guys, maybe he'll bring over some players from Missouri State, but it'll definitely be interesting to see how that turnover goes in this offseason and moving into next year.
Yeah, I think you definitely got to attack the portal. I know, even Tim Beck's the past couple of years, having a tough job of having to basically get 40 guys from the portal or from recruiting just because of the turnover from year to year. I know one of the wide receivers from Coastal already announced he's entering into the transfer portal. Coastal's one of their best offensive linemen this entire season. He entered the portal before even the bowl game. So there's definitely some key pieces that Coastal needs to hit on during this offseason to get things going again, and we'll just see how well Ryan Beard can handle the portal and the changes and all that.
Yeah, another team that's going to be looking to fix some things in this offseason is Clemson. After a rough game for them in the Pinstripe Bowl against Penn State, as they lost this game 22-10. And it was definitely another, it seems to be happening every single week, but another underwhelming performance from that Clemson offense. The defense seemed to play well enough to win once again, which was the story of the year for them pretty much all season, besides a few games. But that offense just couldn't get anything going once again.
Yeah, which is the surprising part, I guess, for this game is what happened after the game. Clemson deciding to fire their offensive coordinator Garrett Riley and safeties coach Mickey Conn. Which, the part of them firing Garrett Riley doesn't really surprise me. They're, like we've mentioned all season, their offensive struggles throughout the entire season. It's just kind of surprising that they waited this long to actually fire the coaches. I feel like fans probably would have wanted that to happen a lot sooner, especially try to get new coordinators in place before the portal opens up, I believe, later this week. And like you mentioned, another just sloppy game from the Clemson offense. This ends the Cade Klubnik era in Clemson. I'm sure fans are looking to hopefully get some more, a stable quarterback play from Clemson. I'm just kind of thinking about the Deshaun Watson, the Trevor Lawrence eras for Clemson. I know their fans are probably going to wish to get back to that era. But, yeah, just a bad game from the Clemson offense, which that doesn't totally surprise me with what we've seen this year. I know another talking point for this game to tie in South Carolina's aspect into it, the Penn State had two coaches in this game that are heading to Columbia. The Penn State defensive line coach Deion Barnes and running backs coach Stan Drayton from Penn State both coached this game for the Nittany Lions, and I'd say they did their job pretty well. The running back coach Stan Drayton for Penn State, they had a running back that made his first start this entire season. I think he's the third string. Quentin Martin Jr. He had 20 carries and 103 yards. So I feel like that's a testament to the job that Stan Drayton did there, and the defensive line coach, just stifling that Clemson offense. I think the defensive line had three the sacks. There was a safety that got a sack in that game. But a good performance from both of those, and hopefully they can do the job in Columbia for South Carolina.
Yeah, I think that running back coach Ad is going to be the biggest addition for South Carolina with his ability to just develop talent. They're sending two guys this year. Granted, it was a down year for the entire roster, but with Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton in that backfield over their whole careers, they've broken countless records at Penn State and in the NCAA. They've been great their entire careers. And it's looking like last season we had the Ohio State backfield with Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson that came into the league, and it was looking like Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton were going to do the same thing this year that they did last year in the draft, but then coming into this season with a disappointing year for the team. But I still think those two guys are definitely a testament to who that coach is and how his ability to develop talent, and I think he's going to carry that over into Columbia, or at least hopefully for Alan Marcus's sake.
Well, even the other coach, Deion Barnes, I'm trying to think of the word, but helped coach Abdul Carter for the Penn State before he got drafted this past year.
Yeah, and then Clemson's definitely going to be looking to bounce back next season. And I think Dabo Swinney, if he doesn't bounce back next year, will probably be his last season unless he can muster up something and get things turned around in Clemson.
Yeah, even speaking about coaching changes for Clemson, a name that kind of surprised me that hasn't been let go yet is C.J. Spiller. I believe he's the Clemson running backs coach, which the running game's kind of struggled. They didn't really have a true running back. They had to convert a wide receiver into a running back this year, which is, Adam Randall did a heck of a job for Clemson. He had some really good games, but, he started off as a wide receiver making that conversion, but he played really well. C.J. Spillers, but he's a legend in that Clemson program as a running back, but as a coach, he hasn't really been doing the job for Clemson. It's just I know they've made some changes, but I don't know how well it's going to work out because they still have some lingering pieces still within that program. It's not a total rehaul just yet.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see. And then moving on to basketball, the South Carolina women's team is now 13-1 on the year. They're number 3 in the nation, only behind UConn and Texas, who they lost to earlier in the season with their sole loss. And they just picked up some big commitments. They picked up 5-star Jersey Robinson, who has been a phenom in high school basketball and across the AAU stage. And they also picked up a European player who's 6'7".
Yeah, 6'7".
Don Staley did the thing.
Alicia Tornby is. I probably butchered that pronunciation again. I guess that's just what I'm known for around here. But yeah, she's 6'7", a freshman forward from France. She can dunk the ball. She's enrolled, I guess, with how college sports has been changing over the years. Teams can pick up players for the second half of the season. So she's enrolling for the spring semester, and I think she's eligible to play right away once she starts classes, I believe, for South Carolina. So we should see her involvement pretty soon. Another talking point for the South Carolina women's team, they have a pretty key injury on the team right now. Tanaya Latson going out injured. I believe it was the game against Providence. She's the second leading scorer for South Carolina this season, behind Joyce Edwards. She's averaged 16.9 points. And this is the player that South Carolina picked up from Florida State last year in the portal, who led the nation in points per game. So, South Carolina's going to need someone to step up and score those points in her absence. I believe it was a lower leg injury. It did not look pretty good. She had to get help off the court, and she wasn't able to put pressure on her leg. So I don't know what the timeline looks like for her return or anything like that, but I guess just in the immediate future, the Gamecocks are going to need someone to step up and fill her place.
Yeah, definitely an unfortunate timing for that injury as well, moving into conference play now, starting out. And then moving over to the men's side of things, the men's basketball team for South Carolina is now 8-4 on the season. And all these teams are in interesting spots right now moving into conference play, and they usually get about a week off for New Year's, Christmas, depending on their schedules. But it's definitely been interesting to watch that men's basketball team, as with the South Carolina men's basketball team, you don't really know what you're going to get each game. They're either going to make 100 three-pointers or they're going to lose by 50 because they couldn't make the three-pointers. It's definitely been interesting to see so far.
Yeah, and I know they picked up a win over, I believe it was Albany yesterday. South Carolina put up a lot of points. I think they scored at least 90-plus points. But like I've said all season, I just don't see this happening once they get into conference play. They're playing lower-tier opponents. And, I don't want to throw shade on Albany or anything like that. But if you had your choice to play Albany or an SEC team, I think you'd pick Albany. I don't think they have the depth to compete in the SEC, and they also just struggle down in the paint. We've said it, like you just mentioned, they rely heavily on the three-point ball, and that's a dangerous game to play when they've shown throughout the season they're prone to have off days where the shot just won't fall down for them. So I think they're going to struggle pretty heavily in SEC play. I hope to be wrong, but I'm just kind of mentally preparing already for a bad SEC showing for South Carolina, which would be a bad showing for a second season in a row.
Yeah, then moving over to the ACC with Clemson, the men's and women's teams are both at 10 wins on the season. The men's team is 10-3, which I think is what we come to expect from this Clemson team. Moving into ACC play, you're going to expect them to be towards the top, if not top, of the ACC, making a run into that tournament, hopefully getting as far as they possibly can, but hopefully I think a Sweet 16 berth would definitely be expected. Elite 8 would be performing very well for them this season.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're definitely, I think, one of the better teams in the ACC. I don't want to get ahead of myself just yet to say that they have a good shot of winning the ACC. I mean, you still got the likes of Duke up there, and it would be a tough challenge for Clemson. I can definitely see them finishing top 5 in the conference. They've put together some really good performance throughout the season, but like you mentioned, I hope this year they're going to hope to actually carry that on to the postseason. They had a really good regular season last year, but lost in the first round of the playoff, the March Madness tournament. So we'll see if they can actually translate the regular season success to postseason, but which we still got a long ways to go with conference playing just about to get underway now.
Yeah, and then moving over to the women's side of things in Clemson, they're 10-4 on the year now, and I think that Clemson women's team just continues to keep improving year in and year out. I don't know if they're quite ready to compete for that ACC title just quite yet, but they're definitely should be up there towards the upper half of the ACC at this point.
Yeah, I mean, even if they can just be the middle tier ACC team, which I think that'd be a win for them, given like they were probably one of the lower bottom half ACC teams for past couple of years now, but we've mentioned it before that they've just been making small improvements year in and year out, and they're just continuing to get better, which is good for them.
Yeah, and then speaking of continuing to get better, the men's basketball team for Coastal is now 8-6 on the season. I know they haven't really gotten into the toughest part of their schedule yet, getting into conference play, but I think we have been impressed with how they've performed early on in the season. We'll say it every single week. They won 10 games last year, and they're 8-6 on the year already this season. So I think they're going to continue to carry this momentum into conference play. I know they're not really expected to do as well as some of the other teams in the conference. We expect them to be somewhere towards the bottom of the Sun Belt. But if they can even put some pressure on those teams to get into the middle of the pack in the Sun Belt, I think that would be definitely a win for that basketball program.
Yeah, it's definitely maybe not a quick overnight change for this program, but we're definitely seeing some signs of improvement. And just speaking for the men's side of things right now, I think it was announced yesterday, that would have been Tuesday, that the Sun Belt named A.J. Dantzler, junior guard for Coastal, as the Sun Belt Conference Player of the Week after his performance against St. Joseph's on the road. He scored 21 points and I believe it was a career high, 12 rebounds and 4 assists in that win. So it's good to see him get some conference recognition.
Yeah, and then moving over to the women's side, who I think has been a little bit of underperforming this season so far. They're 6-7 on the year. The thing again.
I guess we'll do it. We'll keep up. We'll keep it up, I guess.
But they're now 6-7 on the season. On the young season, moving into conference play. I expect their record to definitely pick up once conference play starts. I think this women's basketball team is definitely in for being in that upper half of the Sun Belt. I don't know if they're quite ready to be pushing for a Sun Belt title, but I think they'll definitely be within that upper half of the Sun Belt and competing for at least their side of the bracket.
Yeah, like if you had to ask me which program out of Coast, like at least men's or women's basketball-wise, has a better shot of having which season do you think would go better? I'd still pick the women's. Despite the record right now, I still think they're set up for a lot of success. And then even just mentioning the women's coach right now, Kevin Pedersen, he picked up his 500th career win over Columbia College this past week, I believe, with Coastal. So it's good to see that happen. But yeah, I think they have a lot of left in their tank right now. I think they'll be a fun team to watch down the stretch, and I think they can to get the job done at least to. Not necessarily win the title, but definitely compete for it.
Yeah,
a conference title. Let me put it that way.
not the national title quite yet. Yeah, compete for that Sun Belt title. And then moving on to the high school and prep level, we had the Beach Ball Classic in Myrtle Beach over the past weekend.
Yeah, it's just a great time to watch high school level basketball, and it had some really exciting games. Just last night on Tuesday, we had Wisconsin Lutheran beating North Crawley, Texas, 57-54 in the traditional division. It was a great game for Wisconsin Lutheran. I know his name is Xavier Zins. He had 26 points in it. I think it came down. It wasn't. I don't think it was necessarily a buzzer beater. I think he scored with like a 1 second left, but he definitely hit a really big shot to give them win over North Crawley. Which, I mean, just a very close game, back and forth. It's good to see that come and just keep it an exciting game. And then on the prep side of things, you had Moravian Prep from North Carolina beating Bella Vista out of Arizona 64-61. Another really close game. So just exciting, some basketball. And then in that game, Moravian Prep, they were down 19 points at one point. Just to come back and win that game was pretty good. And then I guess jumping back to Wisconsin Lutheran real quick, that's the team I mentioned last week that had the Knipple brothers on them. And I can't remember exactly one, but one of the brothers had a decent game. But Xavier Zins led that team. And, I mean, just some exciting basketball, and I love seeing that. Obviously, I didn't get to go this year, but it's just a good thing to have that tournament here in the Green Strand every year.
Yeah, it's always great to see that we have an event like that. And high-level high school and prep-level basketball is definitely on par with some college teams. And, I mean, you see this. A lot of these guys are going to be playing high-level Division I basketball in a year or two. And tournaments like these are where guys like that can make a name for themselves and can get that recognition. You've got scouts, people in the area, especially teams like Wisconsin Lutheran, who might only be able to show themselves to the scouts up in their region, and they come down here for the tournament, and it gives them a lot more ability to be seen by different coaches and a lot more opportunities for those guys to get some college offers and get some recognition.
Yeah, this is definitely nationally. I mean, just by mentioning those teams I did and having to say which states they're from, it speaks to a testament that this is a national event, and I mean it speaks highly. I think this is a tournament that teams across the country want to compete in, which is really good for the Green Strand, and I'm sure it does well for like tourism and stuff like that, especially in the winter season and stuff like that. But I mean, I love it for the Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, and then moving forward on New Year's Eve, we've got the next round of the college football playoff is going to get underway tonight and go into tonight with Miami and Ohio State playing in the Cotton Bowl. And I think that should be an interesting game. I think if Ohio State can jump up early, I think they can run away with this one. But if they keep it close, I think Miami can hang around. And it'll just be interesting to see what version of Carson Beck we get tonight, because you never know. You could go back to his Georgia ways and disappear in a big game, or he could step up. You just never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, I think Ohio State's definitely the better team on paper, but as we've seen throughout the season, the better team on paper doesn't necessarily win the game. And Miami's coming off of the big win on the road at Texas A&M. We'll see if they can keep that momentum going. I think it would be a tough test against Ohio State, but we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, I think we've both got Ohio State in that one.
Yeah.
And then moving on to tomorrow, Thursday, New Year's Day, we've got the game slate starting off at noon with Oregon versus Texas Tech in the Orange Bowl. I think Oregon is actually favored in this game according to the betting odds, but I think Texas Tech should win this game because Oregon is very reliant on that high-powered offense, and I think if there's a defense in the country that's ready to stop it, it is that Texas Tech team.
Yeah, I mean, despite my wishful thinking pick of James Madison upsetting Oregon, I think Oregon has a really good shot of running the table and at least making the national championship appearance. I think Oregon will, at least in my opinion, I think Oregon could probably win this game. They have a really good offense, like you mentioned, but I mean, their head coach Dan Lanning is known. I believe he was the defensive coach at Georgia before he came to Oregon, but. They've had a really good defense throughout this season as well, but I think Oregon Oregon will probably pull that one off.
Yeah, then moving on to the next game, the afternoon game, Alabama versus Indiana, and that's in the Rose Bowl this year, which is actually pretty interesting because it is potentially a rain game in the Rose Bowl, which I think hasn't happened in about 20 years. And it's been a while, and I think the Rose Bowl is one of the best places to play in college football. I'm very disappointed to see that UCLA is no longer playing there because it is such a storied place in college football. I mean, the Coliseum, you've got all those stadiums out there in California, the Rose Bowl being probably the most notable stadium. And I'm disappointed to see that they're leaving it, but I think this game is going to be a great one. Alabama and Indiana, I think it's going to be dependent on two factors. You've got an Alabama team who has shown that they can be great. They've shown that they can be bad.
Yeah, I was about to say
yeah.
there's two sides of the coin on that.
Yeah, you've got an Alabama team who you're going to be at the flip of a coin. If they show up the same way they did through the last 3 quarters of that game, their last game against Oklahoma, I think they've definitely got a shot in this one. And then the wild card for Indiana is the fact that a team like that with those guys, that coach, they've never been in a situation like this before. They're playing in a big game in the Rose Bowl. They've had about a month off. So it's kind of up in the air what kind of performance and what kind of team is going to show up for Indiana in this game. So I think it's definitely got the mix-ins to be a interesting game, to be close. But it depends on who shows up. You could see this game turn into a blowout on either side.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is a dangerous position to be in for Indiana. I mean, obviously they were the best team throughout the regular season, but just having this long of a break off, you could find yourself in a position where it's hard to keep that momentum going. But I mean, I think Indiana has shown throughout this season that they're up for the challenge when a big test like this arrives. I think this game favors Indiana. I mean, I could see it still going either way, but I like you kind of mentioned, we've seen Alabama play really well, but we've also seen them play pretty bad. I don't know necessarily if we've seen the Indiana team have that other side where they've played really bad. I mean, obviously it was a low-scoring game against Ohio State, but I think I chalk that one up more to just two defenses playing really well instead of like a necessarily bad performance. So, I mean, I'd have to lean the edge to Indiana, but I could see it going either way.
I'm going to have to give the edge to Alabama.
I was about to say, I know for your sake, I know where you're headed at for this game. But
yeah, I just think it's good. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna come down to who shows up for either team. You've got an Indiana team that's shown that they can be the number 1 team in the nation. You've had an Indiana team who's also shown that they almost lost to a Penn State team.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
That was pretty bad this year. Quite frankly, they were about 2 inches away from losing that game, and who knows what the season would have turned out for them if they would have ended up losing that game. And then you've got an Alabama team. Yeah, they lost 28 to nothing basically against Georgia, and then they come back and they beat an Oklahoma team and have rattle off 35 straight points in that one. So you just don't know what you're going to get. I hope both teams' best performance is in this game tomorrow night. Or tomorrow afternoon, I guess. I hope both teams play the best. I think this game could be potentially the best game of the entire bracket, depending on who shows up for either side. And then moving on to a big SEC matchup in the playoffs, we've got Ole Miss and Georgia, who will be meeting in the Sugar Bowl, which I think is very interesting because these two teams have faced each other this year. And Georgia looks like the same team they were when they faced each other before, but this Ole Miss team is drastically different.
Yeah, I mean, just the whole coaching changes which we've talked about before. It's just there's a lot of noise around the Ole Miss team that there wasn't there before when these teams met. I mean, and to Ole Miss's credit, they played Georgia really well the first time they matched up. It was a very close game, but Georgia ultimately ended up winning that game. I think it'd be hard to not pick Georgia in this game, but yeah, we'll see. Hopefully it's a close game, but I feel like it could get to a game where Georgia's defense just like suffocates that Ole Miss offense, with the high-powered offense that they've known to be under Lane Kiffin, which is no longer there. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, and then another similar situation to what I was mentioning about Indiana in the case of this game, as well as you have Georgia, who's been here before. The players on that team have been in this position before. They've had the time off. They've been in the playoff. Kirby Smart knows how to deal with it. And then you have an Ole Miss team who has never been in this position before, who it's their most wins they've ever had, the furthest they've ever gone in the postseason as a program. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how that balance works out and whether Ole Miss is ready to play in a big game like this, in a big bowl game, New Year's bowl game, for a national title appearance potentially, and going against a Georgia team who has been here many times before and kind of knows how these situations play out.
Yeah, and it should be a good game because, I mean, it's a relatively close game. This is the Sugar Bowl, which should be played in New Orleans, so it's not too far from either team's fan bases to travel. So they'll have plenty of support around them, and then also plenty of opposition around them. Because I'm sure the game is a 50-50 split between ticket-wise between home and away team. But it should be an electric atmosphere, as all these games should be. And it'd be it's exciting time. Obviously, I love this time of year for the playoffs.
And then we've got an interesting bowl game outside of the playoff for a team with a quarterback who thinks he should be in the playoff. And Vanderbilt is, or not Vanderbilt.
Well, Vanderbilt
is playing. They'll be playing this afternoon at noon against.
I think you said Iowa.
Yeah, against Iowa, an SEC versus Big Ten matchup. They're playing at noon, which you guys will probably know the outcome by the time you're watching this episode. And I'm hoping for a Vanderbilt loss. I can't stand Diego Pavia.
I love the success of Vanderbilt, but Diego Pavia makes it really hard to pull for that team.
Yeah, especially coming from an Alabama fan who was devastated by Vanderbilt rushing onto the scene and beating us. I do love to see this Vanderbilt team rise up to the occasion and go from the bottom of the barrel in the SEC to fighting for bowl games and wanting a spot in the playoffs. I don't think they deserved a spot in the playoffs, but they were fighting for a spot in the playoffs after 3 years ago being kind of the laughingstock of the SEC, which I love. As long as they don't beat Alabama, I'm good. I can withstand Vanderbilt being great as long as they're not beating Alabama. And then another team who thought they should have been near the playoff discussion in Texas, another SEC versus Big Ten matchup with Texas playing Michigan in the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. I think this game will be interesting. Once again, you've got another coaching change on the Michigan side, so it's kind of up in the air how that team is going to perform and just exactly what's going on. You don't know what's going on in that locker room and around the coaching staff, and you have no idea how the vibes are or what exactly is going on. Because a coaching change like that, especially with what happened and why the coach is no longer there, is you never know what's going to happen, if the locker room's going to fall apart, if they band together. It's just up in the air. It's just a crazy situation.
Yeah, I mean, and on a lighter note, this is the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. It's played in the same stadium where the Pop-Tarts Bowl was. They've already changed out the sprinkles in the end zone. They've put the Cheez-Its logo on the sidelines, I believe. So it'd be a fun game there. I think this probably favors. Well, it depends. I mean, like I mentioned kind of earlier, just these teams that were on the fringe of the playoffs. It depends on what mindset they come into this game. I could see it very easily just lacking motivation down the stretch after now that they're not in the playoffs anymore. But I feel like this Texas team will try to keep the momentum going into next season. They've already got Arch Manning coming back for another season, so hopefully he can put up a strong performance and show the country that Texas is still a high-caliber team heading into 2026.
Yeah, and I think for Vanderbilt and Texas, you hit the nail on the head there. Is both of these teams wanted to be in the playoff. They expected to be in the playoff. They were fighting for it, fighting, clawing, begging the committee to put them in. And you have no idea what you're going to get from either team. You could see a team that's trying to prove why they should be in the playoff. You could get a team who is kind of like, woe is me, we didn't make the playoff, so we're just kind of in this bowl game that doesn't matter because it's not in the playoff, and have the team just go out there and go through the motions. So it'll be interesting to see what you get. I think if Texas comes out with the mindset that they should have been in the playoff, same with Vanderbilt, if they both come out with the mindset that they should have been in the playoff and they want to prove why they're one of the best teams in the country, I think both teams will win these games. But I think you could also see Michigan and Iowa jump on them early and try and kind of feed on that negative mindset that they could have because they missed out on the playoff. But it'll definitely be interesting to see how these bowl games play out, and especially with the playoff, as a lot of these games are very good matchups who should be interesting.
Yeah, I think all these teams have shown why they deserve to be where they're at right now. And even, I mean, we'll briefly jump from the college level to the NFL now. We have the final regular season with the Panthers, I believe, they're going on the road to play the Tampa Bay with everything up in the air right now. Who wins the NFC South and earns the 4 seed, I believe, in the playoffs. So a lot to play for Carolina.
Yeah, this game will undoubtedly decide the division, with both teams sitting right pretty much neck and neck on the year. Carolina Panthers won the first matchup, but it wasn't a very convincing win. It didn't make me think like this Tampa Bay team can't beat the Panthers, or the Panthers have the upper hand. It was back and forth the entire time. So it's going to come down to the end of this game. I believe we're going to see another one-score game between these teams, and there's a lot riding on it. I think there's a slight chance that either team could make the playoffs with a loss, but it's definitely a very low chance. I think they have to win this game.
Well, I feel like Tampa Bay would be automatically eliminated with a loss. I'm not sure. Well, I'll mention it. The reason we've been saying for the past couple of weeks that it's going to come down to this game, the head-to-head between Tampa Bay and the Carolina Panthers, but the Atlanta Falcons have sneakily entered the conversation. I think them winning against the Los Angeles Rams, which that upset actually favors Carolina heavily now. So the Panthers could technically lose this game against Tampa Bay and still get in the playoffs if Atlanta beats the New Orleans Saints on Sunday, just with how the tiebreaker would work out. So I mean, the Panthers are in a favorable position, but obviously you don't want it to come down to a tiebreaker. You just want to go out there and handle business against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and just win the game, win the division on the field instead of coming down to a tiebreaker like that.
Yeah, you never want to leave it up to this team wins. If that team loses, these three teams need to win, that team needs to lose. Those situations at the end of the season are definitely not one that you want your team to be in. So for the Carolina Panthers, they just need to win this game and leave them to be the decision makers, and rather than leaving it up to watching 3 or 4 other games to see who wins each one. But I think the Panthers should win. I expect them to win. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be tight, a good game. But I think the Panthers will pull this one out and head into the playoffs. I don't know how much of a chance they have once they get into the playoffs.
Yeah.
But a playoff berth for the Panthers, especially given the expectations coming into this year, I think definitely would chalk this season up as a win regardless of how the playoff performance goes.
Yeah, I think it'll be a tough game for the Panthers this week. I think Baker Mayfield is a better quarterback than what he showed in that first game against the Panthers a week or 2 weeks ago. But I mean, I have to favor Carolina. Hopefully, hopefully they take care of business and make a playoff appearance, which will be exceeding expectations.
Yeah, and then we'll be back next week to recap and tell you guys about whether or not the Panthers made the playoffs and see how these bowl games wound up in the college football playoff next week on Palmetto Playbook. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we'll be here next week.
Until then, just have a great start to 2026. Happy New Year's Eve as we're recording. Happy New Year's, and just have a great start to the new year, and we'll be back next week.
Next year.
Well, that too, yeah. That.